Hey there. Have you ever looked at someone you care about, maybe a friend, a spouse, or even yourself in the mirror, and thought, something's just not right lately? It's that quiet feeling you can't quite put your finger on, like the spark that used to light up their days has dimmed a little. As we get older, it's easy to brush that off as just part of aging, tiredness, a slower pace, or maybe the world feeling a bit heavier than it used to. But sometimes, it's more than that. Sometimes, it's depression sneaking in, and it's something we don't talk about nearly enough, especially for folks over 60. I'm so glad you're here with me today because this is a conversation that can make a real difference, for you, for someone you love, or even for a neighbor you've been meaning to check on. Depression in seniors isn't rare, and it's not something to be ashamed of. Life throws a lot at us as we age, losing people we care about, changes in our health, or just feeling like we're not as needed as we once were. It can weigh on anyone. But here's the good news, we can spot it, and we can help. Whether you're worried about yourself or someone else, knowing what to look for and how to step in can turn things around. In this video, we're going to walk through 5 practical ways to identify depression in seniors and support them through it, simple, everyday things you can do to bring some light back into those quieter days. Let's start with the first one, because it's something you might notice without even realizing it means something bigger. One of the first signs to watch for is a change in how someone's acting, little shifts that might not scream depression at first. Maybe your friend who used to love telling stories over coffee doesn't talk as much anymore, or your husband who'd never miss his morning walk just stays in his chair now. It's not always about someone saying, "I'm sad." Sometimes it's quieter than that, like they're pulling back from things they used to enjoy. I think of my old neighbor, Bill. He was the guy who'd tinker in his garage every weekend, fixing up birdhouses for the whole street. Then one summer, the garage stayed shut. At first, I figured he was just busy, but after a while, I realized he wasn't out in the yard waving hello either. That's when it hit me, something was off. Depression can look like that, losing interest in the things that used to light you up. So, take a moment to think about someone in your life. Have they stepped away from their usual routines? Are they skipping the card games or the garden club they used to love? That's a clue worth paying attention to. Now, it's not just about hobbies, keep an eye on their energy, too. We all slow down a bit as we age, sure, but depression can make someone feel like they're dragging through mud all the time. They might say they're tired a lot, or you'll notice they're sleeping more than usual, or maybe not sleeping at all. My Aunt Rose went through this a few years back. She'd always been the early riser, up making pancakes before the rest of us even opened our eyes. But then she started staying in bed half the day, saying she just didn't have the oomph to get going. At first, we thought it was her arthritis acting up, but it wasn't her joints, it was her spirit. If you see someone who's always yawning, or who can't seem to get off the couch even for something they used to jump at, that's another sign. It's not laziness, it's like their batteries run flat, and they don't know how to recharge it. So, what do you do when you spot these changes? That's the next piece, start with a gentle conversation. You don't need to march in and say, "I think you're depressed." That might shut them down faster than you can blink. Instead, keep it soft and simple. Sit down with a cup of tea and ask, "Hey, I've noticed you haven't been out in the garage much lately, everything okay?" Or maybe, "You seem a little worn out these days, want to tell me what's been on your mind?" The goal isn't to fix it right then and there, it's to let them know you're paying attention. When I talked to Bill, I didn't push, just said, "Miss seeing those birdhouses around. You taking a break?" He didn't spill everything at once, but it opened the door. A few chats later, he admitted he'd been feeling low since his wife passed. That's all it took to get him talking, and eventually, he let me help him find someone to talk to. It's about being there, not being a detective. Those little talks can tell you a lot, and they set the stage for what comes next, figuring out how to support them in a way that feels natural and kind. We're going to get into that soon, because spotting the signs is just the beginning, helping them through it is where the real difference happens. So, we've been chatting about how to spot those first signs of depression in seniors, those quiet shifts like losing interest in things they used to love or that heavy tiredness that doesn't quite add up. And we talked about starting with a gentle conversation, just to let them know you're there and you've noticed. That's a big step, because it opens the door without pushing too hard. But once you've got a sense that something's going on, what do you do next? That's where we're headed now, some simple, down-to-earth ways to support them that don't feel overwhelming for you or them. It's all about keeping things light but meaningful, so they know they're not alone in this. One of the best things you can do is just spend time with them, no agenda, no pressure, just being there. Depression can make a person feel like they're stuck in a fog, and having someone sit beside them can be like a little break in the clouds. You don't have to fill the silence with big pep talks or try to cheer them up every second. Sometimes it's enough to watch a favorite old show together or flip through a photo album. My friend Jean did this with her mom when she started noticing her pulling back. Her mom wasn't big on talking about feelings, but Jean would come over with a pot of coffee and some biscuits, and they'd sit on the porch watching the birds. Nothing fancy, but Jean said it was like her mom started looking forward to those visits. It wasn't about fixing everything, it was about showing up. So, think about someone you're worried about. Could you drop by for a bit? Maybe bring a deck of cards or just sit and listen to the radio together. That quiet company can mean more than you realize. And while you're there, try nudging them towards something small they might enjoy, just a tiny spark to get them moving. Depression can make even the simplest things feel like climbing a mountain, so you're not going to suggest they run a marathon or join a dance class out of the blue. Keep it easy. If they used to love baking, maybe say, "I've been craving those cookies you make, want to whip up a batch with me?" Or if they liked walking the dog, offer to tag along for a short stroll around the block. I remember my cousin Dave, who went through a rough patch after retiring. He'd always been a car guy, but his garage sat empty for months. One day, I asked if he'd help me check my oil, nothing big, just a 5-minute job. He grumbled at first, but once he was under the hood, you could see a little of that old Dave coming back. It's not about forcing them into anything, it's about giving them a gentle push towards something familiar, something that might remind them they're still themselves under all that weight. Now, here's another piece that's just as important: encourage them to connect with others, even if it's just one more person. Depression loves to isolate, and the longer someone's alone, the harder it gets to break out of that cycle. You can't be their whole world, and you shouldn't have to be, but you can help them widen their circle a bit. Maybe there's a friend they haven't seen in a while who'd love to catch up. You could say, "Hey, I ran into Mary the other day, she was asking about you. Want to give her a call?" Or if they're up for it, invite someone over for a casual visit. My Uncle Tom was feeling low after his brother passed, and he'd stopped going to his weekly coffee group. I mentioned it to his buddy Jim, who showed up one morning with a thermos and said, "I'm not leaving till you have a cup with me." Tom laughed for the first time in weeks, and pretty soon, he was back at the group. It's not about dragging them out, it's about planting the idea that other people miss them too. That little nudge can start to pull them back into the world. These steps, spending time, suggesting small activities, helping them reconnect, they're like threads you're weaving together to make a safety net. And that's what support looks like: steady, simple, and kind. But sometimes, you might notice they need a little more than what you can give, and that's okay. That's where we're going next, knowing when and how to bring in some extra help without making it feel like a big deal. So, we've been talking about how to be there for someone who might be dealing with depression, spending time with them, easing them into little things they used to enjoy, and helping them reconnect with others. These are the kinds of things that can make a real difference, like a warm hand on a cold day. But sometimes, even with all the love and care you pour in, you might start to see that they're still struggling more than you'd hoped. Maybe they're not bouncing back, or that heaviness just won't lift. That's when it's time to think about bringing in a bit more support, and I want to walk you through how to do that in a way that feels natural and gentle, for them and for you. One thing you can do is keep an eye out for when it's more than just a rough patch. Depression can dig in deep, and there are signs that tell you it's time to look beyond what you can handle alone. If they're not eating much, or maybe eating too much, or if they're sleeping all the time but still exhausted, that's a hint it's gotten bigger. Same goes if they're talking about feeling worthless or like they're a burden. My friend Linda went through this with her dad. He'd always been quiet, but one day he said, "You'd all be better off without me around." That stopped her cold. It wasn't just sadness, it was something heavier. If you hear things like that, or if they're stuck in that fog for weeks with no change, it's a signal they might need more than a kind word or a walk in the park. And that's not a failure on your part, it's just life, and it happens to so many of us. When you see those signs, one of the kindest things you can do is suggest talking to someone who knows this stuff, like a doctor or a counselor. Now, I know that can feel tricky. A lot of us grew up thinking you just tough it out, and the idea of therapy might sound like something for other people. But it's not about weakness, it's about getting a little extra help to climb out of the hole. You don't have to make it a big production. Try something simple, like, "Hey, I've noticed you've been feeling down a lot lately, what if we checked in with the doctor, just to see if there's something they can do?" Tie it to something physical if that feels easier, maybe say, "You've been so tired, let's make sure everything's okay." My neighbor Pat did this with her husband. She got him to the doctor by saying they should both get their checkups done, and once they were there, she mentioned how he'd been off lately. The doctor picked it up from there, and it turned out a mix of meds and a few talks with someone really helped him. It's about keeping it low-key so they don't feel cornered. And here's the last piece, keep supporting them even if they do get that extra help. If they start seeing a doctor or a counselor, don't step back and think, "Well, that's handled." Stay in the picture. Ask how it's going, offer to drive them to an appointment, or just sit with them afterward over a cup of tea. It shows them you're still there, and it makes the whole thing feel less lonely. When Linda's dad started some treatment, she'd call him after his appointments just to chat, not to pry, just to say, "How'd it go today?" He'd grumble sometimes, but she could tell he liked knowing she cared. That blend of professional help and your steady presence, it's like a two-pronged approach that covers all the bases. You're not handing them off, you're teaming up with someone else to lift them up. So, as we wrap this up, think about what we've covered, watching for those quiet signs like losing interest or endless tiredness, starting with a soft conversation, being there with simple company, nudging them toward small joys, helping them reconnect, and knowing when to bring in a pro while still sticking around. It's all about noticing, caring, and acting in ways that fit your life and theirs. Depression doesn't have to win, and you don't have to fight it alone. If you're seeing this in someone you love, or maybe even in yourself, take that first step. Reach out, talk, be there. It's the little things that add up to big changes. I'd love to hear from you down in the comments. What's something you've done to help a friend or family member through a tough time? Or maybe you've been on the other side and someone's been there for you. Share your story, it might just inspire someone else watching. And if this hit home for you, give the video a like and hit that subscribe button. We've got more coming to help you navigate life's ups and downs. Here's to lifting each other up, no matter where we're at. Take care, and I'll see you soon.